I want you to understand something before I tell you this story. I don't believe in paranormal things. I lock my doors because of real people, not ghosts, which is why what happened in line for the Phantom Drop still doesn't make sense to me, even now. I was 26 and working remote support for a software company when I took that trip to Wonderland Park. It was supposed to be a long weekend away from my studio apartment, away from screens. I'd been having trouble sleeping. Nothing serious, just the kind of restlessness that builds up when you haven't left your neighborhood in months. The park was packed. I joined the line for the Phantom Drop around 2 in the afternoon. The wait time sign said 90 minutes. I was about 40 minutes in when I first heard it. A woman's voice, very soft, just behind my right ear. "You still sleep with the bathroom light on." I turned around. The family behind me was engaged in their own conversation, not even looking my way. A father, mother, 2 kids absorbed in their phones. My heart was already beating faster. I do sleep with the bathroom light on. Have since I was a kid. I faced forward again, telling myself it was crowd noise, a coincidence, someone on a phone call. Then, 5 minutes later, "You check the locks 3 times before bed." That voice again, same position just behind my ear. I spun around faster this time. The family was exactly where they'd been. The mother was wiping ice cream off the younger kid's face. "Did you say something?" I asked. She looked startled. "No, honey. You okay?" I nodded and turned back, but my hands were shaking. The line moved forward in increments. The voice stayed with me. "You haven't called your sister in 8 months. You lied on your last performance review. You know what you did in college." Every statement was true. Small truths, private truths, things I'd never told anyone or had nearly forgotten myself. The voice never got louder. It remained intimate, almost tender, like someone reading my diary aloud while standing in my blind spot. Other people in line were laughing, complaining about the heat, taking selfies. No one else reacted. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and put in earbuds, turned on music. It didn't matter. The voice came through clearly, as if the music was playing in a different room entirely. "You don't have to do this," it said. "You can leave. Just step out of line. Go to the platform on the east side. You'll feel better." I almost did it. The panic was building in my chest, and the idea of leaving sounded reasonable, even kind. But I looked at the crowd around me, at the normal faces, the bored teenagers, the sunburned parents. I thought about explaining to someone that a voice was following me. I thought about how that conversation would go. So, I stayed. The voice changed tactics. "Your mother knows you resent her. You're going to die alone. Everyone you work with thinks you're difficult." I squeezed my eyes shut, focused on breathing. The line kept moving. Finally, after what felt like hours, I reached the platform. I was shaking, soaked in sweat despite the shade. The attendant scanned my phone and waved me toward the ride vehicle. As I stepped onto the platform, the voice spoke one last time, and for the first time it sounded almost disappointed. Wrong choice. Then, silence. Complete, absolute silence. The voice was gone. I rode the Phantom Drop. It was fine. Screamed with everyone else, got the photo, walked out through the gift shop. I didn't think much about it after that day. Anxiety, overheating, mild auditory hallucination brought on by stress and dehydration. I saw my doctor the next month for something unrelated and mentioned it. She nodded, made a note, asked about my sleep. But here's the thing I can't stop thinking about. Last week, I saw a news report. Wonderland Park is being sued by the family of a woman who went missing there 5 months ago. Last seen in the queue for the Phantom Drop. Security footage shows her in line. Then, nothing. She's just gone from the cameras. They blamed a technical malfunction. I looked her up, found her photo online. She looked like me, not identical, but similar. Same age range, same build, same dark hair.
And I keep wondering what would have happened if I'd listened, if I'd stepped out of line and walked to that east platform like the voice suggested. Would I have felt better? Would I have disappeared too? Or would someone else now be standing where I am, wondering if they made the right choice by staying?
You know that feeling when a song gets stuck in your head for a few hours? This isn't that. This has been 3 months, and it's not fading. Worse, I'm starting to meet other people who have the same song stuck in theirs. We all rode the same roller coaster. I'm 32, work in IT support, and I'd been dealing with insomnia for about 6 months when I took my niece to Valley Ridge Amusement Park last summer. I thought getting out of the house might help. I was wrong. The ride was called the Spiral. Nothing special, a mid-tier wooden coaster with a 2-minute loop. But the queue had speakers playing this upbeat theme song on repeat. Calliope music, cheerful and rhythmic. After 40 minutes in line, I had it memorized. My niece hummed along. What I noticed first was how it didn't stop when we boarded. The attendant cut the main audio system. I watched him flip the switch, but the music kept going, quieter but still there. I assumed it was bleed from another section of the park. The ride itself was fine. We got off, bought overpriced lemonade, went home. That night, I heard the song in my sleep. Not dreaming about it, I could hear it. Faint and distant, like it was playing in another room. I woke up several times to check. Nothing. It continued for 3 nights. Same song, same volume, always between 2 and 4 a.m. On the 4th night, I dreamed I was back in the queue. The line wasn't moving. Everyone around me was humming the song in perfect unison, but their mouths were moving. I tried to leave, but my legs wouldn't respond. I woke up drenched in sweat. I called my sister to check on my niece. She said Emily had been asking to go back to the park, said she kept humming that song and had drawn a picture of the coaster with everyone standing in line that looped back on itself forever. My sister laughed about it. I didn't. I started looking into the park online. Found a forum post from 2 years ago, someone asking if anyone else had weird dreams after riding the Spiral. 16 replies. They all described the same dream I'd had, same details, same time frame, started 3 days after visiting, lasted about 2 weeks. One reply was from a user named AE_Mike, who claimed to be an audio engineer. He said he'd worked on the park's sound system briefly and had found something strange in the Spiral's track files, a secondary layer unlisted in the project documentation. He'd isolated it, subsonic frequencies, rhythmic around 60 to 70 beats per minute. He said it matched resting heart rate patterns almost exactly. The post ended with him saying he'd reported it to management and been let go the next day. He didn't respond to follow-ups. I tried to find him. His account was deleted. I tried to find the original sound files. Nothing publicly available. I thought about going back to the park with a recording device, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The dreams stopped after 18 days. The song faded. I started sleeping normally again. I convinced myself it was stress, coincidence, maybe some kind of minor carbon monoxide exposure in my apartment that I had since resolved. Then last week, Emily stayed over. She's 9 now. We were watching TV when a commercial came on for Valley Ridge. The Spiral's music played for maybe 3 seconds in the background. Emily stopped mid-sentence, turned to me, said, "Do you still hear it at night, Uncle Dan?" I never told her about the dreams. I never told anyone. She tilted her head, smiled, and went back to her show like nothing happened. I asked her what she meant. She said she didn't remember saying anything. I checked my phone later. I'd opened a browser tab at some point that evening. I don't remember doing it. The search bar had 5 words typed. How to stop hearing it. I didn't type that. I'm sure I didn't. They tell you that safety is the #1 priority. Every training manual, every employee handbook, every corporate video. They tell you until you believe it. I believed it for 11 years. I'm 34. I've been a ride maintenance technician for 11 years, mostly at regional parks, the kind that survive on season passes and school field trips. I thought I'd seen every corner-cutting trick in the book. I was wrong. Last summer, I transferred to Lakeside Park. My first morning shift, the operations manager pulled me aside before opening. He said pre-shift inspections were taking too long. Guest complaints about wait times were up. Corporate wanted us to do visual checks only. Skip the mechanical tests, the restraint cycling, all of it. Just eyeball the tracks and clear the rides to run. I told him that wasn't protocol. He smiled, said protocol was flexible when the park was understaffed. I refused, politely but firmly. He reassigned me to janitorial that afternoon. The next day, the cyclone derailed during the first run. A 17-year-old girl named Ashley Kern went into a coma. She'd been sitting in car 3 where the lap bar sensor had failed. I found out later the sensor had been flagged in a report 2 weeks earlier. Someone signed off on it anyway. I was cleaning bathrooms when it happened. I heard the screaming from across the park. 3 days later, I was called into a meeting. HR, the operations manager, and a man in a suit I'd never seen before. They said they were conducting an internal review. They asked if I'd noticed anything unusual about the cyclone before the incident. I started to mention the skipped inspections, the reassignment, everything. The suit cut me off. He said the park took safety seriously. He said misinformation could complicate the investigation. He slid a non-disclosure agreement across the table. I didn't sign it. I left. That night, I got my first message. A text from an unknown number. You made a choice today. Make a smarter one tomorrow. I tried to report it. The police said it wasn't technically a threat. I called the state labor board. They said they'd open a file. 2 weeks later, I was copied on an email chain by mistake. It was between the operations manager and corporate legal. They were discussing document retention policies. One line stood out. Purge all maintenance logs prior to June 15th. Confirm when complete. June 15th was 4 days before the accident. I forwarded the email to my personal account. Then I sent it to a reporter at the local paper. The next morning, my car wouldn't start. The brake lines had been cut. I moved in with my sister across town, changed my number. The reporter never called me back. When I checked the paper's website, I couldn't find any story about the park. I called the newsroom. They said the reporter I'd emailed had left the paper, no forwarding information. I got a job at a hardware store, kept my head down, stopped talking about Lakeside. Then, 2 months ago, I saw the operations manager. He was in the checkout line ahead of me. I froze. He turned, saw me, and smiled. He paid for his items and left. I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper when I got off shift. It said, "Good, keep it that way." Ashley Kern woke up last week. I saw it on the news. She has permanent brain damage. Her family settled out of court. I still work at the hardware store. I don't talk about Lakeside. I don't talk about what I know. But sometimes, late at night, I think about the lawsuit records, how settlements seal everything, how Ashley's family will never know what really happened because someone made sure the evidence disappeared before anyone could ask the right questions. And I think about how many other rides are running right now, cleared by someone who was told to skip the checks. How many sensor flags got signed off? How many people are walking through turnstiles today, trusting that someone like me did their job? I didn't, and I'm still here.
I need to tell someone about this, and it can't be the police again. They already think I'm unreliable, or worse, involved. What happened at Funland started 3 weeks ago, but I'm only now understanding what it means. I'm 24, working nights at Funland Arcade to pay off student loans while I figure out what comes next. Most shifts are just me, fluorescent lights, and the hum of unplugged machines. I don't mind the quiet. After 3 months, I'd gotten used to being alone. The claw machine sits in the back corner, one of those old models with faded decals and a coin slot that jams half the time. Management keeps it running because it's grandfathered into some lease agreement. I'd never seen anyone play it. It was a Tuesday, maybe 1 in the morning, when I did my final walkthrough. I check each aisle with a flashlight, even though the overheads stay on. Policy. When I reached the claw machine, something was different. Inside the usual pile of threadbare stuffed animals sat a photograph. Not a toy, an actual photo, face up, glossy under the cabinet lighting. I crouched down to look. It showed a teenage girl, maybe 16, caught mid-step in what looked like our parking lot. The angle was wrong though, too low, like the camera had been sitting on the asphalt. Her expression was neutral, distracted. She wore a jacket I recognized from a missing person flyer that had hung in the break room 2 years ago, Mackenzie Pierce. She'd vanished after a shift at the snack bar. I unlocked the machine. My hands shook a little as I pulled the photo out from between a purple bear and a rubber dinosaur. The back was blank. No writing, no date stamp, just photo paper. I should have called someone. I almost did. Instead, I pocketed it and locked the machine back up. The next night, I brought quarters. I told myself I needed to check if there were more. I dropped a coin in and worked the joystick. The claw descended, closed around nothing, lifted. When it released, another photo tumbled into the chute. A man in his 30s, parked car visible behind him, dome light on. The photo was taken from the passenger seat, pointing back at him. His face showed confusion, like he just noticed something. I didn't recognize him, but his image had the same flat documentary quality as Mackenzie's. I played again. An older woman outside the arcade's side exit, looking at her phone. The timestamp glow lit her face. Behind her, through the doorway, I could see the hallway I walked down every night. Again. A kid, maybe 12, photographed through chain-link fence near the equipment shed. I remembered him. Search party came through 4 years back. I stopped feeding it coins when I'd gone through $18. 12 photos total, spread across the prize counter. Every single one showed someone who'd gone missing within 5 miles of this place over the last decade. Every photo taken from an unexpected angle, low, close, inside vehicles, through windows. None of them showed a photographer. I checked the machine's interior with my flashlight, searched for a projector, a false bottom, anything. It was just sheet metal, gears, and toys that had been there since I started. I checked the security tapes. The camera covering that corner had been dead for 6 weeks. Maintenance kept saying they'd fix it. I reported the photos to police the next morning, gave them everything. They took my statement, bagged the evidence, and said they'd look into it. A detective came by that afternoon, inspected the machine, found nothing. They checked for prints, nothing useful. The machine still works. I check it every shift now, but it only gives out toys, no more photos. What keeps me up isn't what I found. It's something smaller. In Mackenzie's photo, the one taken from ground level in our parking lot, you can see the arcade entrance in the background. The lights are on inside. Through the glass doors, just barely visible, there's a figure standing in the back corner, right where I stand every night when I do my final walkthrough. I've looked at that photo 100 times. I can't make out the face, but I can see the flashlight.